Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday. A new day and a new background for Brandy. So
Yes, I'm at my sister's house in Connecticut.
all right.
Another location. When are you back to New York? Or are you going back to Miami next? What's the next move?
No, I'm going back to Saratoga today to do some grocery shopping. And then tomorrow I pick Max up from the airport and we go back up to the Adirondacks for another week and then back to Miami.
So you're not home for the rest of the year, basically. That's what it sounds
the
like.
month.
Yeah.
We talked pre-show about Brandy setting up a little podcast corner in her house, and we advised her not to because she's never at home. So why invest in something if you're not going to use it?
Yeah, why make the investment?
Ideally, it's just like, you got to be adaptable. But maybe this fall I'll have a little podcast corner and I'll actually be home more to use it.
Well, I'll say I was impressed with how often you brought your mic whenever you traveled. I was like,
bring it everywhere.
I was like, no one's ever going to bring their mics. We're just going to have crappy audio the rest of the time whenever people travel. But no, you've always held out. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I have a little travel case for it. It's come with me all over the country, all over the world at this point.
Yeah, with all your wedding tours that you did.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And it's going to be down in Mexico City in a month.
Yep.
A month from today.
Yeah, pretty much exactly a month from today. So for all of our listeners and live viewers, if you aren't going to Guesty, then what are you doing? There is a link in our show notes, but if you haven't heard, Guesty is a partner of the podcast, and of course, they are inviting us to Mexico City. Miss Queen Bee herself is going to be on stage doing a panel, and then Michael and I will also be coordinating some interviews on top of some other fun content pieces coming out to Good Morning Hospitality. So fun stuff. But speaking of fun stuff, should we maybe make a quick little announcement for some of our listeners and viewers outside of all the Skift announcements we've had this last couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Only if you want me to cry.
Michael, it's okay. Don't cry. It's okay. Well, just a couple quick notes for all the listeners and viewers. I know I said when we announced the acquisition of Good Morning Hospitality and Hospitality FM that there wouldn't be a bunch of significant changes to happen right out the gate, but we are making one little change that you may notice. And so the one quick change is that I will be stepping out from the host position a little bit more, and I will be coming more into the executive producer role for Good Morning Hospitality, still helping with the live stream, still being here on Monday morning to see my favorite people every morning. But instead of me being in the host seat, we actually have the one and only Jamie Lane taking my spot. So let's welcome him back up from behind stage. Jamie Lane, woohoo! Welcome back. How we doing?
Great. I'm just surprised that, like, what is it? 2 weeks into the job of Skift, you're already firing yourself.
Yeah, he's like
100%. Yes, 100%. I'm going from the Joe Rogan of hospitality to the Jamie, which is Jamie's or Joe Rogan's producer. For those that don't listen to Joe Rogan, not this Jamie. But anyways, yeah, no, it was just there's a lot on my plate right now, and it's hard to switch from a host to producer to strategy to editing workflows to all the other little things. So I think for now, this is a good change. It's a good change. So,
yeah, well, Jamie,
welcome,
you're
Jamie.
following in my footsteps, starting as a host, and then just getting that guest host becomes more permanent host.
A new era of Good Morning Hospitality.
I really was getting jealous that you guys are hanging out every week, and I only get to show up once a month. So
I know.
Well, you are not quite as much as Brandy, but you're on the road a good bit. So, it's great having a trio, being able to shuffle travel schedules around. But Will, it's the end of an era. We appreciate what you've done.
Don't choke up, Michael. Don't choke up.
But we will see you every Monday anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And for the listeners, I will be joining on episodes that I feel like I can contribute to or get excited about. Obviously, so when Uber becomes a super travel app, I will be back on the show. I can't wait. So it's
It'll
gonna be a
just
good
be
time.
Will saying, "I told you so" for 30 minutes.
100%. It's like, so that one time I had that prediction. You guys remember that? But anyways, no, just a fun little announcement. We don't want to let the listeners kind of be like, what the hell is going on with all the voices changing on the show. So anyways, without further ado, I'm actually going to now bow out and jump backstage to manage the rest of the broadcast. Jamie, Brandy, Michael, have a great episode. Happy Monday.
Thank you, Will. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
And fitting enough, it was earnings week again. So good time for Jamie to step into his full-time role. But before we kick off, Jamie, one more quick announcement you want to make?
Yeah. The other sort of thing is because it's the month of August and Europe takes vacation, the GMH EU crew is off for the month of August. So no, they're not gone forever. They're just taking the summer off, which is what you do when you live in Europe, I guess.
I know, forever jealous. Forever
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, we gotta implement that into the American culture somehow, some way. But we look forward to getting them back on here in September, maybe
after Labor Day. Yeah,
after Labor Day. Sweet. Well, Jamie had some interesting earnings calls this week, but one quick thing they caught my eye this week was Booking is now rolling out their own credit card. So not too dissimilar to what we saw Expedia do, I want to say 18-ish months ago. I should have looked that up beforehand, but finger to the wind, a year and a half ago, Booking.com is on their heels. And the race for loyalty and credit card points has never been stronger. I think I saw some data recently that 77% of credit card points goes towards booking travel. So an outsized share of it. So it only makes sense for the major OTAs to have a significant stake in it. And by doing that, assuming the points are on par, then you have broader choice than sticking with just a Hilton or Marriott or Hyatt card. So I like the play. We'll get into some Airbnb stuff later, but Chesky also nodded at the fact that they're starting to get serious about looking at loyalty plays. I don't know if a credit card feels authentic enough to the most authentic brand in the world, but we'll see.
I roll.
But we'll see if they end up going down that route as well in 12 to 18 more months.
At some point, like, there's just going to be so many cards. And once there's been time for like the booking.com card to kind of filter out into the world, I feel like we should do a poll of our listeners and see like, okay, of all of these cards, like who's an Amex brat, who's using Chase Sapphire, who's using all of these cards, to see, within the travel and hospitality community, like what is actually real.
Well, Brandy, the fun part is you never have to pay for a trip again because you just use one card, get all their sign-on points, burn them, go get another card. Just play the Brian Kelly points guy game. So this is great for Brian Kelly. The whole point system is going haywire these days, but it's all about those sign-on points, sign-on bonuses.
Though this one, what I'm excited about is it's a no-fee credit card. So I don't have to pay that $600 or whatever I pay for my Delta Reserve card, and like 6% travel credit and earned in cash to use for future sort of hotel and short-term rental stays. Like, it's not bad. And it's not the 10% I get from booking through Hotel Tonight, but 6% is much better than a lot of the other sort of rewards out there.
That's a good point. And this is a short-term rental play too, because you can use it anywhere on Booking. Marriott was the first to be able to redeem points on short-term rentals that I can recall. Somebody can fact check me there. But in a big way, Booking is now in the driver's seat. I guess Expedia did that, but you actually couldn't redeem it on Vrbo, if I remember correctly.
I know, forever Vrbo just getting like left out on and not brought into the ecosystem.
Yeah.
But speaking of Expedia and their earnings, Jamie, anything exciting stand out to you?
Yeah, and one like Expedia and sort of outperformed market expectation. Their stock was up massively after the earnings release, and with Expedia's sort of and really high exposure to the U.S. and sort of the broader sort of weakness across the U.S., there was a lot of sort of weak expectations. They exceeded them, but and there was some call outs on Vrbo. Maybe not as much talk about Vrbo as you'd sort of hope, given that it's one of their sort of core consumer brands, and it grew low single digits. What was surprising though is booking value actually fell, and so they reported lower ADRs, shorter length of stays, higher cancellation rates, and really sort of cautious bookings on the lower end. Higher end sort of consumers were still resilient, and they said that things sort of picked up in July, and which was sort of echoed from Airbnb, but sort of broader, and it was and continued pressure from inbound international, shorter booking windows, like higher cancellations, like those are all and sort of warning shots across the bow of like, all right, if ADRs are going down, booking windows are shortening, cancellations rates are going up, like, and people are booking for shorter periods, like, and those are all sort of worrying signs for the health of travel in the US.
Well, all that said, they still grew room nights by 7% year over year. So you can have flashing caution signs, but until someone hits the brakes, a company as big as them still growing at 7% feels like it's pretty good. Is that about on par with some of the other OTAs, Jamie?
Yeah, and on nights, like they were all pretty similar, sort of low teen digits, and Airbnb at 7%, booking right around there, and Expedia right around there. On revenue, we did see some sort of differences. Airbnb revenue growth up 13%, Expedia 6%, booking sort of led the charge at 16%. So you do see some sort of differences there on the growth rates, but everyone, when they're sort of guiding for Q3, are in that sort of upper teens, sort of 8 to 10% range, except for Expedia, sort of low single digits, 3 to 5%. So we're in this, and across the board, sort of low or below 10% growth, which, and for companies this size, like growing right around 10%, like that's pretty good. Airbnb was the one that sort of called out like 10% isn't acceptable. Like they've got to be above 10% growth company. And when you look at the earnings multiple, and Wall Street is expecting above 10% growth. So and
their multiple is a lot higher than Expedia's though, right? So they have to have it. Expedia is not expected to have it. And one of the numbers that jumped out with Expedia for me, we've talked about the B2B business line before, but their B2B line grew 17%, which is absurd. And again, I think the more they invest in it, they're gonna dominate this whole segment of travel. And it's, in my opinion, going to be a big segment of travel. We'll get into Instagram a little bit later on the show, but I still, for anyone who's listened loyally to this show, I still really think Instagram is going to be a huge channel, and the eyeballs that it gets and the top of funnel that it gets has to trickle down eventually. And through a B2B channel like Expedia has set up, it's going to get better and better. And then, I mean, 17% is a massive growth number for any publicly traded business. So and the CEO came out of the B2B line. So they're going to keep investing in it, which is obviously a smart thing to do.
Well, and there was criticism about the B2B focus not too long ago, and it just like you can just see that being proven wrong kind of time and time again.
And that's the only thing that worries me for Vrbo is they're sort of, and they called out that they were going to double down on sort of the factors that were sort of continuing their growth. So at what point does Vrbo, and is it just a low single digit and growth vector? It's not, and there's not a lot of opportunity for growth for it, and they start pulling back on investment. So I worry there. I don't think we see that yet, but And running a business, there's always the choice of what do you continue to sort of invest in versus maintain, and would hate to see Vrbo be just a business line that they maintain as opposed to invest heavily into.
Yeah, well, they have plenty of, I think there's plenty of opportunity for them. I mean, anything that's on Airbnb can be on Vrbo. So hopefully they'll put some more money into, or effort into, getting different operators, to list.
And historically, anything on Vrbo cannot be, well, let me rephrase this. Vrbo tied in with Expedia has almost the entire world's accommodations. Yep. Airbnb hasn't had that before, but Jamie, there is some news this week.
Yeah. And Brian Chesky is getting excited about hotels. So, and if anyone listened to the Airbnb's earnings call this quarter, and I know most people don't, so you're not disappointing me when you say you didn't listen. It got a little bit spicy in terms of Brian really calling out all the ways that he expects they can grow. And this was the first time. So typically Airbnb sort of positioning Airbnb as the competition, as that they're going to outgrow, they're going to outcompete, they're going to push people into short-term rentals. And this is the first time I think he really called out that hotels are a massive opportunity for them, and they're going to be going significantly more aggressively into hotels. But they also called out that, and homes are the heart and soul of Airbnb, and it will continue to be, but there's a huge amount of growth for Airbnb pushing into hotels, which, and we've all been either in the hotel industry or hotel adjacent. So I think it's fun to see them thinking more about that crossover. Obviously, they invested into Hotel Tonight back in 2019. They've been able to analyze, really understand that business, the hotel distribution space. So, Michael, what is your thoughts being a new hotel owner about the opportunity of Airbnb pushing more heavily into hotels?
Yeah, I've seen this trend slowly starting to happen over the last 2 years or so, where a lot of people from short-term rentals aren't necessarily leaving short-term rentals, but they're also growing into the hotel, particularly boutique local hotels, not going and buying airport Holiday Inns, but going and buying stuff with heart and soul that they can express their personalities within the properties they buy and decorate them accordingly. But it is the next level of professionalization, I think. And those that have maybe been disenfranchised with short-term rentals, lack of standards or headaches of managing owners across, however many properties they own. Hotels are a lot easier in many facets to run, operate, own than a portfolio of vacation rentals or a management company of vacation rentals. So I think it's inevitable. Airbnb has seen this trend internally. And it's, I think they're capped out on market, quite frankly. I don't think they can keep growing room count in short-term rentals. And if they do, they're going to start, the bottom of the funnel is just going to start bleeding as well. People are going to be leaving as quickly as they're adding because there's just not enough demand to go around. You've talked about many times the supply has been pretty significantly outpacing demand. Demand has grown, supply has grown significantly larger, and that can't go on forever. So the next phase, the next iteration is boutique independent hotels.
Yeah, well, and he's talking about having Airbnb be like the travel app. So obviously they will have to start adding other elements of travel and hospitality. And I wonder what boutique airlines they'll be adding to have the flight component. But I saw there was something on one of the LinkedIn vacation rental groups, and saying that Airbnb has lost its soul or is turning its back on hosts. And I think that's a bit dramatic. The sharing economy component of Airbnb has not been like a core tenet of it in many, many years. And like Michael said, like their TAM is kind of exhausted. I mean, they're growing internationally. They mentioned Brazil and Japan as being, good new markets, but obviously hotels were coming. And I actually think that there might be a Holiday Inn on there at some point, maybe not in the near future, but if they want to be like the travel app, you're going to have to add some of the big boxes, but getting their toes wet in boutiques first.
Well, we also can't ignore the fact that they own probably the coolest hotel OTA and Hotel Tonight. It's just not been advertised or promoted in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to be curious how they roll that into Airbnb or keep it separate. Maybe that's where they sign up all the flagged properties, and then all the independents they can kind of pull into the Airbnb platform. But we've seen them add experiences, we've seen them add services, which is essentially an experience, right? You bring a private chef in, that's an experience. You bring in a massage professional, that's an experience. It's a service, but it's an experience. So two of the same things. But is a hotel room at a boutique hotel that has heart and soul, that kind of lets you live and feel like the local, a huge departure from, one bedroom or a studio condo in the same market? Probably not. So let's see.
Yeah, he also mentioned that their AI guest service bots have reduced the need for, human agents by 15%. And I think that is another component. Obviously, they want to be using AI everywhere. That's what you need to be using to be a relevant tech company, or really like any company now. But it'll be really interesting. I feel that and this is obviously an I feel statement, but there is this sentiment around the increased use of AI, like customer service things. And there's for quick help, obviously it makes a huge difference, but I can just imagine like the rage post that we're going to see when someone is trying to like figure out their their host canceled, or there was a flood or something. And then there's an AI chatbot trying to help communicate with this enraged person on the other end. So I think that's just an interesting thing that we're going to see across the industry.
I don't know if you've used GPT-5, it's gotten significantly better. And I can only imagine, I mean, they spent $200 million on a company to bring in AI. That's the low hanging fruit, is responding to guest and host interventions. It's just standard protocols. They're going to decline everything, give everything to the host, give everything to the guest. The host gets nothing. I'm curious how hard coded that is into their system.
Yeah, just guest approved everything, deny the host everything, done.
Cancel listing, delete listing. We joke somewhat.
And just another comment though on that is, and I think more than anything, and Brian is looking at Booking.com. He's seeing that they've beat them on growth just every quarter the past 3 years. And Booking is pushing heavily into the US, heavily into alternative accommodations, which is Airbnb's core market. And then I think Airbnb is looking at Booking.com, like what has driven their growth? Like where have they just dominated? It's independent hotels in Europe. Like they have become that brand. They are how independent hotels distribute their supply. And for Airbnb to really compete with Booking, to sort of start to pull back some of their market share, like it's not going to happen through competing on and their own sort of turf in the US. It's going to come through like using their brands and pushing heavily into Europe, pushing heavily into the boutique hotel space. And Airbnb grew nights 7%. And it was, as you mentioned, Michael, less than supply growth. We estimate that at about 10%. And they're still growing supply 10%. But you go and look at their growth vectors, like what are the parts of the business that's growing strongest? Like it's their app. Their app is amazing. They had nights growth of 17% of bookings through their app. It's now 59% of their business coming through the app. That's insane that it's grown so much. And then their growth markets, like outside of the US, UK, Australia, France, like they're growing more than double the growth rate in their core market. Like, so they're seeing strong growth throughout Latin America, throughout Asia Pacific. So the ability, I think, next year to not only move into hotels, but become an AI first app at the same time, and maybe reimagine that hotel booking experience, and could be that growth vector they've been sort of looking for, that hasn't come through experiences, hasn't come through services, haven't come through all these other things that they've sort of tried to move out, sort of overnight accommodations.
Yeah, and for all the mostly jest, but serious jabs at Airbnb that I've provided on this show through the years, I really respect the business. I love the branding. They do an incredible job at PR. The challenge that they might face moving into hotels is not people like me that came from short-term rentals and moving into hotels, but the hoteliers that have hated Airbnb for the past decade. And they, you walk into their office and say, list on Airbnb. They're going to say, bugger off, get out. Yeah. So they're going to have some uphill battles in hotels. And I think, it's not going to be, I think the first early adopter wave is going to be super easy. People are going to be excited. I'm going to be excited. They're going to be pumping hotels more. And, that our property in Virginia is, I think, maybe 10% booked through Airbnb right now. So a substantial but a nominal amount. I do think they start getting into city centers with REITs that have a lot of big box hotels as well, and they're going to struggle with supply acquisition over time. Now, they could do some backdoor engineering with Hotel Tonight, and then automatically fill things from Hotel Tonight onto Airbnb, the ones that they select. But let's see how that plays out. I don't think it's going to be complete smooth sailing on that supply acquisition side.
No, but I will say, I think it will just take maybe one of the bigger, a couple big companies. If people are struggling, if we are going to see this downturn in travel, it will, the emotional, the deep rage that they've been feeling towards Airbnb might get tempered by the need to make money and find eyeballs wherever they can find them. But I think
that's when we saw the great OTA awakening, was during the great financial crisis, right? Like, bookings are down, occupancy down, like, oh, like, I can drive bookings through the OTAs, like, let's do it. Like, anything to drive occupancy.
Yeah.
So one more question for you guys. Because at the end of Q&A, Brian got a question on acquisitions. And for context, they've got $11.4 billion sort of in cash, sort of sitting around.
Chump change.
Yeah. And they really haven't, they did that AI acquisition last year. They did Hotel Tonight in 2019. They really haven't done much in terms of acquisition. But Brian sort of mentioned that, and historically they've been focused on building, but now they're absolutely open to acquisitions, especially if it could sort of reaccelerate growth for them. So you guys have any predictions? Michael, I know you always have a prediction, and you love predictions on acquisitions. So, what do you think they're going to buy, if anything?
Do you want me to go realistic, or do you want me to go out there?
One of both.
Okay. The out there one, I'm going to throw out Angie's List. They have moved heavily into services, or so they say. So why not just go all the way? Just take Angie's List, bring out a plumber, bring out a handyman. You need a roof replaced. Angie's List is your place. Now you can go to Airbnb. Aside from that one, I think since he's signaling hotels, I would look towards a boutique hotel platform. Hyatt, I believe, bought Mr. and Mrs. Smith, so that one's off the market. But something along those lines. I don't think Plum Guide has too many hotels. Somebody can tell me. I don't know Plum Guide that well. but I would look towards maybe a more boutique hotel platform, maybe a Preferred Hotels or an SLH. Who knows?
What about you,
Well,
Brandy?
Yeah, this is when we talked about pre-show, so I can't take total credit for this, but Turno, I think that also is like if they want to start adding some of the other travel components. I don't know what Turo, not Turno, sorry. Turo. Obviously I don't use the app very much. But can't really see them buying like a flight OTA, but if they want to start getting into other parts and of the travel experience, that might be a good option. And it's back to their sharing economy roots.
Yeah, I'll give you my two. And they could do them in one foul swoop with the cash they have on balance. Take out both TripAdvisor, which owns Viator, which would get them and to be the number one sort of experiences, and it might piss off Will, but Lyft's market cap $5.5 billion. That could be a fun one to push them into cars and that side of travel.
And maybe more achievable than the Uber acquisition.
Yeah, especially since Dara is gonna buy Uber. Yeah, or Dara is gonna bring Expedia and Uber together. Yeah.
Well, if they're already signaling this, they have to have some acquisitions in the works. So my guess is we don't have to wait more than 2 quarters before we understand who they've bought. So Will, our executive producer, mark this show, tag it, and we'll come back to see if any of our guesses are right.
Part of the 2026 predictions episode.
2025, Brandy.
I meant for next year. If we have to wait 2 more. Okay. Well, Jamie, congratulations on your first episode as a recurring host. It's so great to have you on the show. Now we're going to have the data all the time, and we don't just have to like harass you in the WhatsApp chat for interesting data.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, Jamie. Enjoyed the content and excited to see how some of these predictions play out.
Me too. And I'll try to keep the data to a minimum.
No,
we're always screaming for the data. All right, everyone. Well, thanks. Bye.